In the past 36 hours, at least 4 children have been shot in our area, 2 of them deadly.
Just heart-wrenching. Can't
really
even describe it any other way.
First, we're learning more about the deadly shooting that claimed the life of a local 9-year-old girl who was shot in her apartment in the Heights area on Monday. Fox 26's Dominique Keith spoke exclusively with Kylie's grandmother.
Some nights are meant to be forgotten. Others, no matter how desperately we wish, might stay with us forever. This was one of those nights, a night that ought to be an ordinary night, a family watching a movie over evening snacks. But it all shattered with a sound, a single moment, 2 bullets, and the world lost something irreplaceable, an innocent life. This was the night that a mother's worst nightmare became her reality. 10 p.m., 13th June, 2022, at the Camden apartment complex in Houston, Texas, at 404 Oxford Street. Kylie was shot dead by her mother's ex-boyfriend. This is the story of cruelty, betrayal, and an innocence stolen too soon. It is the story of Kylie Sorrells, her mother, Brittany Sorrells, and the man who turned their lives into a tragedy, Jeremiah Jones. Monsters do not appear out of nowhere. They are created, they are enabled, they are allowed to walk among us, free to wreak havoc, free to destroy lives, free to kill. Jeremiah Jones was not an unknown threat. He was not hiding, no. He was a man the system had in its grasp 5 times before. 5 times they could have stopped him. 5 times they could have locked him away. 5 times they let him go. And on the 6th, he stole a life that can never be returned. The justice system had opportunity after opportunity to prevent this tragedy. Jeremiah Jones had a history, a long one marked by violence, possession of firearms, and repeated offenses. He had been arrested before, charged with crimes that should have been enough to keep him behind bars. But instead of facing the consequences of his actions, the 22-year-old walked free, time and time again. Each time the system handed him a bond, the first, the second, the third, fourth, and fifth bond, all becoming nothing more than a ticket, back to the streets, a slap on the wrist, a second chance, a third, a fourth, a fifth chance, until finally there were no more chances to give, because now there was a little girl lying still in a small grave, her bright future snatched away. Now there was a mother with empty arms and an unbearable grief. Now the system had finally decided to do what it should have done long ago. Deny him bond, charge him with murder, and ensure he never walked free again. But what good is justice when it comes too late? What good is a verdict when the damage has already been done? Because no matter what punishment Jeremiah Jones faces, it will never bring back Kylie Sorrells. A warm welcome to True Crime Family Stories. We're excited to have you join us as we delve into the darkest corners of human nature, exploring the most shocking true crime stories from around the world. To stay up to date on our latest episodes, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We'd also love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, as we might just be covering a crime from your city or neighborhood next. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate your feedback in helping us create more content that resonates with our audience. Justice, no matter how swift or severe, cannot undo death. It cannot rewrite the past or breathe life back into a child who deserved so much more, and that is what makes this story so unbearable. This is not the kind of story that ends with a sigh of relief, with people saying justice has been served, because justice does not bring back stolen innocence. Justice does not erase the horror of a mother who will never again hear her daughter's laughter, never again feel her tiny arms wrapped around her waist, never again watch her grow into the beautiful young woman she was meant to be. Jeremiah Jones had been stopped, yes, but he had only been stopped after he had already destroyed a shining light in Houston. Brittany Sorrells was a mother before anything else. Every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, she did it all for her children. To the world she was strong, the kind of woman who carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. But behind closed doors, love had made her vulnerable. She had fallen for Jeremiah Jones, a young man who came into her life with promises and charm. He whispered dreams of a future, spoke of family, and convinced her that love this time would be different. But love, when given to the wrong person, becomes a weapon. Jeremiah wasn't the man Brittany thought he was. There were red flags, moments when his temper flared, when his words were vengeful, when his presence felt more like a storm than a safe haven. But love has a way of silencing doubt, of making excuses for the inexcusable. Until 9-year-old Kylie paid the ultimate price. Kylie Sorrells was turning 10 years old in a month, but her spirit was much bigger than her small frame. She was the kind of child who left a mark on every heart she touched. Bright-eyed and full of life, she had a smile that could turn even the darkest day into something beautiful. She was a big sister, a daughter, a friend. Kylie Sorrells was a Windsor Village elementary school student. She loved music, dancing in front of the TV with an energy that made the whole room feel alive. She had dreams, big ones. The future was a wide, open road stretching endlessly before her. She loved to play basketball. She was full of energy, with dreams that stretched far beyond the walls of that Oxford apartment. She loved making TikTok videos, sharing her world with the people who followed her. She was an achiever, and she played for the Police Activities League (PAL) program. And more than anything, she loved the idea of helping people. She adored her mother, looking up to her with the kind of admiration only a daughter can have. Brittany was her hero, her protector, her world, and Brittany loved her fiercely in return. But love, no matter how strong, couldn't stop what was coming. The hardest questions are the ones no one wants to ask, the ones that linger in the back of the mind, demanding to be acknowledged. Did Brittany Sorrells make a mistake? Did she bring a monster into her home? Did her choices, her trust, her love lead to the moment that stole her daughter's life? No one wants to blame a mother who has lost her child. No one wants to point fingers at a woman who barely escaped with her own life. But the truth is heavy, and it is unforgiving. Brittany Sorrells survived that night. She walked away with a bullet wound, a scar that would fade with time. But the wound that truly mattered, the one that cut the deepest, that one would never heal. Because she lost something that made beautiful. She lost her child. Kylie was innocent. She was full of life, untouched by the darkness that had unknowingly crept into their home. She had no control over the choices her mother made. She was just a little girl, one who should have been safe, one who should have had a lifetime ahead of her. But in the end, she was the one who paid the price. And now Brittany is left with nothing but memories, regret, pain, the kind of grief that swallows a person whole and never lets go. No matter how much she wishes she could go back and change things, she can't. Kylie is gone, and she is never coming back. In the end, this is not just a story about a man who finally faced the justice he deserved. This is a story about failure, about loss, about a system that should have done more, about a mother who might never be whole again, about a little girl whose name should never have been in the headlines. This is the story of Kylie Sorrells, a little girl who dreamed of being a police officer, a little girl who made people smile, a little girl who should still be here. But instead, her story ends in tragedy, and no amount of justice will ever bring her back. When Brittany Sorrells first met Jeremiah Jones, he was not the monster the world now knows him to be. He was charming. He was attentive. He knew how to say the right things, how to make her feel wanted, how to make her believe that maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who truly cared about her. But monsters do not always reveal themselves right away. Sometimes they wait, they pretend, they wear masks, and by the time they finally show their true faces, it's already too late. Brittany thought she had found love. Instead, she had invited a storm into her home, one that would tear through her life with a force she could never have imagined. The signs were there, of course, the possessiveness, the jealousy. The way he questioned her every move, demanded to know who she was with, accused her of things she never did. The way his anger simmered just beneath the surface, ready to explode at any moment. Brittany had tried to walk away. She had broken up with him 2 months before that fateful night. She wanted peace. She wanted safety. She wanted to focus on her children, on building a life free from his shadow. After 8 months of being together, Brittany made a decision for her safety and that of her kids. She walked away. But little did she know that walking away wasn't enough. Jeremiah Jones was not a gentleman. He didn't believe in goodbyes, and he certainly didn't think she had the right to leave him. His violence was not new. Brittany later revealed that he had a record, a history of violence against women. She was not the first to suffer at his hands. She was not the first to feel the weight of his rage. The system had known who he was. It had known what he was capable of, and yet it had let him walk free over and over again. And because of that failure, because of the chances he should never have been given, on June 13th, 2022, at about 10 p.m., Brittany's world was brazenly destroyed. It was supposed to be a quiet night, a normal night. Inside their apartment on Oxford Street, Houston, Texas, Brittany and her 3 daughters were curled up in bed, watching a movie. It was a moment of peace, a family connection. Outside, Brittany had her cousin over. She was unaware that in a split second, everything would change. And then Jeremiah arrived. A week before, he had threatened to kill her. He had made it clear that he was not done with her, that if she tried to move on, there would be consequences. Now he was here to make good on that promise. Brittany's cousin saw him first. He was outside the apartment, marching to the living room with rage. This was not a man coming to talk. He didn't just visit for a civil conversation. No, this was a man coming to destroy. The cousin tried to alert Brittany of who had just arrived unannounced. But before Brittany could get the cue, Jones was already inside. The front door had been unlocked. There was nothing standing between him and the defenseless family. And that was when the nightmare began. Jones walked through that door like he still belonged in Brittany's life. Uninvited, but this time he was not a lover. He was not a partner. He was not a friend. He was an intruder. Brittany knew the second she saw him that this was not going to end well. His face was twisted with rage, his eyes wild, and then, without warning, he lunged for the television with so much force that it came right off the wall. He ripped it from the socket, yanking cords, destroying the piece that Brittany shared with her daughters that evening. "It's mine," he spat. Brittany had broken up with him 2 months ago. He had no right to be in her home, to visit her at 10 p.m. with such violence. He had no right to be near her innocent kids. But here he was, claiming he wanted to take the television that he'd bought. It belonged to him. Jeremiah dragged the television to the front door. Brittany didn't struggle. She allowed him, hoping he would leave. But he was far from done. He could not stand the thought of her being free, of her moving on, of her life continuing without him. At once, he demanded for her phone, asking to see who she's been talking to. "Who have you been seeing?" he asked fiercely. She tried to stay calm, tried to avoid the fire she saw burning in him by giving him her phone calmly. But there was no stopping his vile intentions. Access to her phone wasn't enough. He wanted to punish her, and with that, he cocked his gun and shot her. Brittany cried out as the bullet met her shoulder, sending her to the floor. But still he wasn't done. Jeremiah Jones was determined to hurt Brittany in ways she never would have imagined. Seeing her bleed wasn't enough. He wanted more, and that's when he turned to the bedroom. And as Jones walked toward the back bedroom, Brittany had no idea she was seconds away from witnessing the worst moment of her life. Seconds away from a tragedy that would haunt her forever. He stared at Brittany's 3 daughters, 3 innocent children who had nothing to do with his rage. Kylie, 9 years old, her sisters 7 and 1-year-old respectively. And without hesitation, without a single moment of remorse or empathy at the innocent eyes staring back at him, he lifted his gun, and he pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Kylie right in the head. 9 years old, a child, full of life, full of dreams. Gone in an instant. Brittany screamed, lunged, but it was too late, because her baby, her sweet, beautiful Kylie, wasn't moving. And then, just as quickly as he had come, Jones turned and fled out the door, leaving behind a shattered mother, a lifeless child, and 2 little girls who had just watched their sister die before their eyes. The night was supposed to end in peace. It was supposed to be another quiet evening, another bedtime routine, another night where a mother tucked her children in with love and safety. But Jeremiah Jones had turned it into a nightmare. 9 years old. That's all she got. Just 9 years, 9 birthdays, 9 Christmas mornings, 9 years of laughter, of scraped knees and bedtime stories, of running through the house barefoot and waking up before the sun on Saturday mornings. She had barely begun to live. Kylie Sorrells was a child full of energy, a girl who brought joy to everyone who knew her. She had dreams, big ones, and a spirit that thrived for greater things. One of her favorite things in the world was pretending to be a law enforcement officer. She would put on a toy badge, hold up a plastic walkie-talkie, and patrol the house like she was part of the Houston Police Department. And the thing is, she was good at it. She had a presence, a natural confidence, a spark that made people believe in her. It wasn't just a game to her. It was something more, a dream, a calling. She would post her videos on TikTok, showing off her skills, making people smile. And people noticed. They loved her energy, her enthusiasm, her passion. She was a star in her own little world, touching lives in ways she didn't even realize. She was part of the Houston Police Activity League program, a program designed to build positive relationships between young people and law enforcement. She loved and admired the law enforcement job. Maybe she wanted to be a police officer one day. Maybe she wanted to protect people. She wanted to make the world a better place. And the cruelest part? The very violence she wanted to fight against was the same violence that took her life. She was supposed to grow up. She was supposed to have a future. She was supposed to be safe. Instead, her life was cut short by a man who should have never been free to hurt anyone again. The world was stolen from her. One moment she was full of life. The next, she was gone. Her dreams, her laughter, her future, it was all stolen in an instant. And the worst part, she never even had a chance to defend herself. She was just a little girl, just a child. Kylie was pronounced dead a few hours later at the hospital. Everything was done to save her, but the damage to a child was too severe. A bullet right to the head. She stood no chance. Brittany Sorrells survived that night. But did she really? Yes, she walked out of the hospital. Yes, she recovered from her physical wound. But
Sorrells was shot in the shoulder and survived, and her mother, who's also Kylie's grandmother, she says she's now determined to fight for tougher domestic violence laws because according to court records, Jeremiah Jones had previously threatened his ex-girlfriend, Brittany Sorrells. In fact, those documents say he went to her apartment a week earlier with a gun and threatened to kill her.
the wound inside her, the one that might never heal, that one will stay with her for the rest of her life. Her 7-year-old and 1-year-old daughters survived too, but what they saw that night, the horror, the fear, the sight of their sister being killed right before their eyes. This just might haunt them for a long time. They lost their sister. Brittany lost her daughter. The world lost a child who could have grown up to change lives, and all of it could have been prevented. But it wasn't, because no one stopped Jeremiah Jones when they had the chance. And now an innocent life is gone. The city of Houston was now on high alert. A 9-year-old had been executed in her own home, and her killer was still out there, roaming the streets like a free man, just as he had so many times before. But not this time. Not after this. On June 14, 2022, after an intense manhunt, Houston Police Department SWAT team finally arrested him. 22-year-old Jeremiah Jones was arrested around 6 p.m. Tuesday in a parking lot near Spring. They found him hiding, like the coward he was, trying to escape the consequences of what he had done. He was charged with capital murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The same man who had walked so confidently into Brittany's home just days before was now being dragged into a courtroom, shackled, forced to face the result of his actions. But it was too late. Justice, if it could even be called that, had come only after a child's life was stolen. And the worst part, it didn't have to be this way. This was not Jeremiah Jones's first arrest, not his second, not even his third. No, this was his 6th time being arrested. 5 times the justice system had him in its grasp, and 5 times they let him go. Before he murdered Kylie, before he shattered an innocent family, he had already been caught and released multiple times on bond. His crimes were not petty, they were not mistakes. On June 1st, just 12 days before Kylie was murdered, Jones had already been arrested and charged with evading the police, violating a protective order, and making a terroristic threat. But despite prosecutors insisting that he should not be granted bond, the judge allowed him to walk free for a mere $45,000 bond. $45,000? That was the price of his freedom. That was the cost of a little girl's life. And it wasn't just this time. Jones had already been caught with a firearm, felony, and burglary charges before being handed his new bond. His crime record was extensive at the age of 22, and no one knew if perhaps he had more criminal record in his juvenile period before 2018. At every turn, the system had a chance to stop him, to lock him away before he could hurt someone else. But over and over again, it failed. And now, because of that failure, a little girl was dead. This time, when Jones was dragged into court, there was no walking free. No second chances, no more bonds. For the first time, a judge denied him bond. Now he faced capital murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Now he would sit behind bars, waiting for a fate that frankly should have come long before this tragedy. But what happens next? Will he face the death penalty for the life he took? Will he spend the rest of his life in a prison cell, thinking about the innocent child he stole from this world? We don't know. What we do know is that no sentence, no punishment, no number of years in a prison cell will ever bring Kylie back. Because justice, no matter how swift, no matter how severe, will never undo the damage that has already been done. Jeremiah Jones was not a mystery. He was not a man who hid in the shadows. The signs were there. The threats were there. The violent past was there. And still he was free. Still he was allowed to walk into Brittany's home and take her baby from her. A disgusting story of carelessness, a tale of chances given to a man that never deserved any. This shocking story leaves many wondering, why did Jeremiah Jones get so lucky with the law? Why did he have to take a life before the system did the right thing? Is there more to Jeremiah Jones than the world knows? If you haven't already, like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear Kylie Sorrells' story. Subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the truth and seek justice. Thanks for watching till the end, and we'll see you in our next true crime story. If this chilling story sent shivers down your spine, make sure to share the video. Subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss a new video.